ASEAN. Sometime one day I make 5 speeches. Okay, so I think Faith will, Faith Z will talk a bit about the freedom of thought, conscience and religion. So in line with this idea, maybe let me say something since I scribbled some points here for your consideration. In the 21st century, religious communities across the world has been experiencing social transformation from the impact of internet, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. Religion is often misconstrued, however, and religions have been abused by people to achieve their personal agenda. This has brought out many issues in how different religions relate to one another, and more importantly, how governments respond to the changing situation and shape official policies in the respective countries. Many of these issues are addressed in different ways, depending on the interests, ambitions and belief of individual leaders in the various countries. I believe Faith will be talking a bit more about the ASEAN countries later on, and you will get an idea that from the practical point of view of what I meant. In countries where there have been relatively more democratic institutions and where the rule of law is more strictly adhered to, the differences in religious views and the discussions among the different religions takes place in a very safe and more constructive marketplace of ideas. In other societies where people resort to violence to express their beliefs and pursue their respective vision for the future, because they believe that in protecting their religious belief and their faith, no one else actually cared. So they have to resort to other means, non-peaceful means, to look after their religious beliefs and faith. So that's the first big point I want to talk about. The second big point I want to talk about is that it is in the nature of every faith and religion to promote their belief as being the only truth. Yeah? And very often it is only that truth and they don't accept anybody else's idea. But in reality, every religion talks about peace and love for humanity. So I feel that this is the starting point where we look at the contemporary world with so many different religions and so many different religious views on every issues affecting our society. In ASEAN, the role of the government is to promote peace and security, and to do so, ASEAN governments have to create a set of policies which will increase their citizens' awareness of all the different religious faiths, religious beliefs, and in doing so, respect cultural diversity and ensure that everyone is given equal opportunity without anyone being unfairly disadvantaged. The governments are responsible for upholding the rule of law and to make sure that there is procedural fairness for enforcing all the relevant legislation and policies. My view is that in doing so, the government cannot do everything themselves. Therefore, government in ASEAN country need civil society, and there are many organizations today in the civil society. Many of them are also what we call faith-based or faith-inspired organizations. So now we shorten this long term into 3 simple alphabet: FBO, faith-based organization. These are non-governmental bodies, and they are quite well established in each of the village or rural areas, as well as in the urbanized areas. But definitely they understand the local community better than anyone else. I dare say better than the government bureaucracy, because sometimes in some part of our ASEAN region, government is seldom there. Yeah. Who looks after the needs of the local community? My wife and I used to be fortunate enough to be looked after by a domestic helper, and she came from the Philippines, but she read the Washington Post, the New Straits Times, and the Singapore Straits Times. She worked for us for 15 years, and she always will cut out any newspaper report about me, photograph and reference to my name. So she was my press liaison officer at home. Yeah, but she was actually our housekeeper. She came from a place in the Philippines where after sunset, they all go back to the house and sleep and make babies because there is no electricity. Yeah. When sun comes out, they go to the field to work. I think they are still doing that even today in her village. Although she has remained in Washington DC to work after we left, I give her a visa to stay on. So, there you go. I asked her, where do you learn how to read and write? And she said it came from the church because they provided a missionary school, and she learned how to read and write. So I think her level of English is, compared to Singapore standard, maybe say O level or somewhere near that, which is not bad for someone from a village. But the main point I want to make is that she told us that this came from a local church school. So the point I want to make here is that civil service, a civil society organization, faith-based organization, they really make a big difference on the ground in all our countries. Even in Singapore, where we cannot say to have rural areas. But along a street, you can find the guy that knows everybody is probably the imam from the mosque or the priest from the church or temple. At least in my street, they know. And this guy always asks me, when are you coming to pray? You have not visited the church for many years. I think 3 decades I haven't been to the church after school. So there you go. People know about the local residents and community. So FBOs and civil society organizations must be the bridge between government, policy, and the respective local community, local people, and understand them and help them solve their problems. And they are quite important today. They are even more important today because very often we have all these typhoon, cyclone, floods, all these natural disasters. And when this happens, usually the FBOs will be the first guy to move on the ground to carry out what we call humanitarian relief and disaster help. So, going forward, we must really recognize that if nothing else, the official agency must try their best to do more to to connect with such civil society groups, such faith-based organizations, to be prepared for the worst that can hit our respective communities, whether because of the lousy weather, because of earthquake, or because of some other unforeseen emergency situation. In the ASEAN Community Blueprint, under the ASCC, ASEAN Social Cultural Community Blueprint, we have specific recognition of the role of the faith-based organization, because we talk about interfaith and intercultural dialogue through ASEAN community building, so that we can heighten awareness of the diversity in our society, and hopefully the different faith-based organizations will help to strengthen community spirit and increase understanding and tolerance, and more importantly, mutual respect for all our different groups in our respective communities. So we talk carefully about this faith-based organization, and to promote ASEAN community building, we recognize that they must be part of the wider stakeholdership, and that they have to be actively engaged, actively motivated to continue their work, which their religious and faithful doctrines have required them to do, while at the same time instilling in the citizen the love for the country, the love for the community, and now working with the ASEAN member states to promote regional integration and better life for everybody. So I think I should stop here. Although in your papers, I was told that I must also talk about the achievement of the ASEAN community. In my opening remarks, I have already touched on a few aspects. To sum up, ASEAN community revolve around politics, security, economic, social and cultural characteristics. We sum them up in three pillars: politics, economic and social. As a former Secretary General of ASEAN, I say we are not there yet in many ways, but I am optimistic because we have done quite a lot of things so far, yeah, and the community is actually there. It's just that we have different level of understanding and appreciation of what it means. Definitely, we now can travel easily across all the ASEAN countries. Last time when I was working in Jakarta to fly to Hanoi, it was a whole day exercise. I leave my house at 6 o'clock, I will reach Hanoi maybe at 7 p.m. But today, maybe I can get there by late afternoon or early afternoon. Yeah. Tourism is flourishing across the region. Last year we have more than 105 million tourists across ASEAN, and more than 50% of the tourists come from ASEAN countries. So it's not bad. And ASEAN leaders believe that tourism is the best way to reduce poverty. Because any one of the poor kids can offer you for $5 to take you around to see all the temples and all the things that you want to see. Of course, in cheapskate tourists, we say, I give you $2 instead of $5. Even if it's $2, it's above the poverty line defined by UN, which is $1.25. So if nothing else, I always say, if a poor kid meet a tourist like me, he or she will get $2, and that is above the poverty line for the day. So it's not a bad thing to do to promote tourism, and I hope that more and more of our country will think of this as we talk about how to reduce poverty and improve the quality of life for our children. terms of the politics and security for the region, of course we have plenty of issues. If I say the wrong thing, the needle will put me here. There's a needle here. I think as 10 big ASEAN countries surrounded by many bigger ASEAN neighbors, we will always have this kind of issues. But I want to stress that ASEAN is not unique. Many other organizations around the world face the same problem. And who would think after 70 years, the European had to say, the British guy go home, or the British guy say, I don't want to talk anymore with the continental Europeans. So there you go. ASEAN is not unique in that. Yeah. Social, cultural arena, as I mentioned just now, we need to do more. Yeah. But this is an area that is more difficult than the economic integration, because when you talk about education, you talk about religious belief, you talk about culture, you talk about environmental practices, you talk about what? Healthcare. Different countries have different traditional way of doing things, which means that it is time consuming to try to bring more into one common platform and one common way of doing things. But I am quite sure, looking at different examples across ASEAN, in fact my researcher gave me many examples. Example of FBO involvement and civil society work in social cultural arena. There are 3 or 4 pages here, but I don't want to read them all. I will leave it to discussion later. Conclusion is that I feel we have a good thing going. We need to always think about it, and it is quite significant that after almost 50 years, we have this idea of engaging the faith-based organization to widen our stakeholdership. So the progress that we have made in Bangkok and today give us some room for optimism. At the same time, the final note of caution must be that religion is a very, very emotional and sensitive issue. If you do not handle it carefully, it can become explosive and it can become quite a threat to our respective society. So as we go forward, I hope one of the things that we do is to widen the stakeholdership, but at the same time to instill in more of our groups, whether civil society groups or faith-based organizations, the important quality of ASEAN. Many people outside ASEAN always miss this point about ASEAN. ASEAN is diverse. ASEAN is consensus-based in making decisions. But more importantly, at the end of the day, if outsiders try to do things that will undermine each of our belief in ASEAN, I think the reaction can be quite strong. And that is one reason why I feel that despite all the differences, ASEAN community is really there. It's just that we don't call it ASEAN community, we still name it differently. But I think if the 10 of us, ASEAN, eventually stand against the people from North Pole and South Pole, we will say we are from Southeast Asia, and we hang together because that's the only way we know how to do, and this is the way that we will overcome many of the challenges that we have. So I will stop here, and that Faith, I like her name, Faith. That Faith dive into a very deep depth to tell you what she has found from her study for the HRRC. She is the research and project coordinator for the HRRC, and I think you will enjoy what she's going to present. Thank you very much.